baby, go! Yeah, yeah! Yeah, yeah! Go, baby! Yeah!
I know you've heard of mighty Thor with his hammer. Here we have Atlas with its four-motion all-wheel drive. Actually, it's an Atlas Cross Sport, you see, which is a slightly different version of the Atlas. And it's an amazingly nice, I use that word a lot, I know, amazing, but it is. It amazes me that it has so much room in it, because it's a lot like crawling around in the big old room, like, you know, Carnegie Hall in, where is that, New York, New Jersey? Well, I'll tell you, this is a very, very spacious vehicle inside. And it has a lot of other wonderful things going for it. Come with me, my friend. Let me tell you of Atlas Cross Sport. Cross Sport. It's attractive, not a wart. Boy, that's really reaching. Look at the width of this car. I want you to notice something right off the bat here. Look at this. Look at the size of the width. Very wide track. But the thing is, this wideness, this width, if you will, translates to incredible interior room. You have like couple distances, they call it. It's huge, miles away. Excellent for divorced people. And not only is it roomy, but it's actually a really nice driver. And one of the main reasons I really like this Cross Sport Atlas is the engine. It's the VR6, if you've heard of that. That is, of course, a V6 engine. And I have to show it to you because just looking at it is a pleasure. All right, my friends, are you ready? Are you prepared? Are you prepared to see? Oh, yeah. There it is. There it is. Check this out. You see, what they do on this particular model with the VR6 3.6 liter engine is they put the Monroney to the car on top of the engine. They don't do that. That's a lot. I did that. But check out the beautiful, deliciously clean lines of this V6. Interesting that the V6 in this vehicle claims, according to the specifications I have from Volkswagen, it's a 10-degree V, which is really tight. It's a little tight V as opposed to like a 90-degree V where there's 3 cylinders on each side splayed out quite wide. But that's what it says. It says 10 degrees. I'll believe them if that's what they mean. Unless it's some kind of a different German thing. But boy, it is just a beautiful thing to look at. You get this bloody camera shadow out of here. Ah, much better. But as you can see, with an engine like this, I don't know how they did this, and I'm trying to figure out if it's because the fenders are really high, or if they mounted the engine really low, but it appears to be mounted almost as low like a Subaru engine, which is a wonderful thing to do to your weight distribution. And anytime you can get the engine mounted low, it helps with handling, it helps with every traction, everything. it's a real good way to go, and it even helps if you're involved in an accident. But they've managed to shoehorn this little V6, which is not that little at 3.6 liters. That's pretty much standard fare these days. Way down in there. And it's not turbocharged, bless its soul. And the air intake, as you can see right here, hang on now, we'll run down. There it is right here. Air comes in to this box right here, and then goes down there and around there, and then here's our composite. Like I say, they're all doing that now. Composite runners that lead into where the sparkling plugs are. Now, here's something wild. This is a V6, correct? Correct, says so right there. Now the question I have is, here's our spark plugs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now what are they doing all on one side like that if it's a V? I don't know how that works. I would have to really look at that. I'd have to, hey, let's take the engine apart, shall we? And have a look. But that's really interesting to me how they do that. But they do. They will not tell me anything. I do not deserve to know. Hey, Monroney! Everyone knows it's windy. Sorry about that. So there we have a beautiful engine. Now, I bet you'd like to know something about it. Well, 276 horsepower, 266 foot-pounds of torque, and it is attached to an 8-speed Tiptronic automatic transmission. 8 speeds, just like the Dodge Ram I just had. And it's real interesting, 10-unit difference between horsepower and torque. Now, which car, children, in my little assortment of reviews I've done, also had 10 units between horsepower and torque? I'm asking because I don't remember. But somebody did, which I thought was kind of interesting. But that's a healthy little output. And it's, I think, quite adequate for hauling around a lot of people. And but Boots, you can pull a trailer with this, can you? You sure can. And the mount, they say, is 5,000 pounds braked for your trailer needs. So that's very capable. We're talking, it says mid-size, but I think this is a almost a full size. Something else that's really interesting about it is this particular unit, unlike the full Atlas, the regular Atlas, is a 2-row, and I'm not sure if that's the big designation between the Atlas and the Atlas Cross Sport. Maybe the number of rows. I don't know. I haven't read all the literature yet. But that would probably be the thing. But let me show you something about that, though. It's amazing. So this being a big vehicle, but still a 2-row item, check out this cavern there's caverns everywhere. There's caverns in seating, and then there's caverns for your cargo. Look at all this room here, boy. And you're going to discover this with me. I have not looked in here yet. Ah! Oh, look, a spare tire with your basic fender bass boosting thing in the back here. This is a temporary spare, but it's still a spare, and we give it kudos.
I'd like to take a moment, if I may. It's come to my realization that with the Moroni blowing around everywhere, I never actually showed it to you. So here we have it is a 2022 Atlas Cross Sport V6 SEL Premium R line. And that's what this vehicle is. And with all the options and everything else, the price comes to $51,535, which I think you're probably pretty interested in, because that's what I believe is vital information. So now you have that. You can look at the screenshot all you want and see all the details. Sorry that happened. I blame the wind.
Room, more room. You could live in this thing if you had to. Hopefully you won't have to. But then again, who knows? The way things are going, when the apocalyptos come and everything, you may have to live in your cross sport. I mean, I don't know. Hope not. But boy, what a nice vehicle for your family, for a large group of people, for your cult. You know, whatever you might have that you need to house and transport. Very good vehicle. I'm itching to take this thing out on the road. I do love how beautiful that V6 engine is. That is the VR6, by the way, which is kind of famous. If you're a Volkswagen fan, you're all about that. You probably have a t-shirt that says VR6 on it. Because that's, you know, that's how you roll. And that's how this rolls too. Behold, Volkswagen's Virtual Cockpit Pro. It is for professionals. But here we have a full flat screen situation, as we see more and more commonly on all our vehicles that we are purchasing. Even though they still have the appearance of an analog instrument cluster, it is not. And one of the advantages to the current setup, there are some disadvantages, but one of the big advantages is you have a degree of customizability. You can alter it a little bit to suit your personal taste. For example, if we look at this now, we can go to, we are currently on Classic. Now I can take us to, why don't we go down the View 1, okay? Here we go. That is view number 1, which is, a lot of it just has to do with what particular things are being displayed, and you can suit that to whatever you want to keep track of, pretty much. That's basically all that is. Now we can go to, there we go. Now we can go to view number 2. Well, I tell you, this is a real interesting control thing because it doesn't like me. There we go. So again, the basic instrumentation as far as the analog appearance instrumentation is the same. But it's just slightly little changes here and there depending on what you want to do. Let's go look at another one real quick. I'll go down to 3. And there we go. And interestingly, in the right, which is actually the speedometer, in the middle of that you would now have a route guide if you were you know, using your navigation system, and you look on the left side and this is the same thing. Which I'm sure there is subtle differences, but this particular model is not equipped with a navigation system as I understand it. We can go over here to the main display and hit navigation. Oh, I guess I got it. That's another thing about this. You have to turn it on. This, by the way, I had this up earlier because it's very entertaining. This is your off-road information as far as an inclinometer as to the attitude of the vehicle fore and aft if you're climbing a big hill or going down a big hill. A compass rose, 217 degrees. You know, it's real interesting. Earlier, this vehicle was parked in the exact same place, and it was about 40 degrees different than it's saying now. So I don't know what's happened. The Earth may have slid on its axis once again. And then to the right, we have your elevation, which is cool stuff. Now, navigation. No destination suggestions available. This doesn't seem to have a regular map in it. But if I pick a destination, I can probably go there. Let's say I'm looking for an airport. International. Oh well. I can't do this right now. It just doesn't like me very much. But anyway, we have all kinds of other settings on here, including digital cockpit, which is what I was just doing. I don't really know exactly what it was changing, but I think this is, if you use that third view, this is what you're going to have in each of the different analog instrument clusters. So they're just giving you that information about what the heck that is. Driving data. There's your little car. Oh, I do like that. Look at there. There he is, ready to go. The range to empty and all that good stuff. You're familiar with these things. Most cars nowadays, if you can find them, this information is there for you. It's just a matter of going through the necessary menus to find it, and that's the problem I have with a lot of them, is a lot of the menus are not exactly intuitive. So anyway, below that, we have your climate control system, which is very straightforward and easy to manage. We're on automatic right now at 68 degrees for both passenger and driver. And then we drop down, we have our conventional shifter, like so, and you put her down in drive and kick it off to this side here, and then you can go forward and backwards to advance and retard your gear as per your manual choice. Tiptronic, it's called. And then we have your basic drive mode selector right here, which currently is on normal because, you know, normal's cool. We take it here and we're in snow mode, complete with a very attractive graphic of snow and mountains and things. And then we go from there to normal. See, that's what normal looks like. And then we go to off-road. Now the side of the car, after being covered with snow, is now covered with mud and grit. And the remains of my enemies. And then we go to this setting, which is the off-road custom setting, where you get to tweak some of the internal settings to fine-tune or polish exactly what you want in your off-road performance. This thing has good ground clearance. The approach and departure angles, or the approach angle in particular, I'm not real thrilled with it. It's pretty low to the ground, and they have to be these days, all these vehicles, if they're trying to achieve decent fuel economy on the highway. It really does matter, the fact that, as I've discussed before, if the bottom of the vehicle is smooth and semi-aerodynamic, that's a great thing. And the low front end is very important as well. That's why on a lot of pickup trucks now you see all kinds of spoilers and things on the front that are made of flexible material so that it's low to the ground, but if you want to crawl over a rock and stuff, a lot of them you can hit stuff with, and they're basic big rubber things, so they'll be able to deform and reform, as they say. Okay, on your steering, on the right side, we have our information guide in general, which we have already visited to adjust our speedometer cluster, our virtual cockpit. And over to the left, we have our array of cruise control settings, including this does have lane departure kind of control, also known as I believe it's lane tracing. And we also have the ability to adjust the distance between the car in front of you and your vehicle, depending on the speed you're going and, you know, your own common sense, basically, which is probably one of the reasons that's going to be replaced by an automated system at some point. Because some people will follow so close, they're still not going to be able to stop in time if the car stops in front of them. But another story for another day. Room, yes, there is so much of it in this vehicle. It's staggering. And you got this beautiful panorama. Yeah, I do love me some panorama. And as I have said before, the big thing about the whole Atlas family, which consists of the Atlas and the Atlas Cross Sport, is room. And especially side to side. Look at how far away that door is. It's I don't even know if I can reach it. I reach out for it. I can't even reach it. It's really roomy in here, folks. I really love that aspect of this vehicle, and it doesn't do bad in any other category, really. It's just the biggest gripe I have with it is a lot of the way Volkswagen does their instruments and controls are just not real. I don't know, we're not too simpatico together. But that's just me. And as far as the engine performance of that beautiful V6, it's quite good. And we'll see what our fuel economy ultimately ends up being. I'm not going to conject. I should be getting roughly, on ideal conditions, I would be getting about 20, but these are far less than ideal conditions. So I'm thinking 18 is what I'm probably going to end up with. But we'll see. Nice, huh? Wow, even this tree is very, very attracted to this vehicle. Can't blame it. Big, big door, folks. It opens about 87 degrees, I would say, but very, very big door opening. And inside, look at all this space. There is a very, very slight drive shaft bulge, but it's almost not worth mentioning. It's so much closer to flat. But the leg room is great. Side to side distance is fantastic. And here we have your armrest. Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah. I think I'll just stay back here for a while. And you have really nice map lights, even though you have some panorama roofs compromise your map light situation. Not this thing. They got a real nice personal map light on each side. And look here, look here. Oh boy, that's good. I love them shades there. And guess what? The outside outboard seats are heated for your comfort during the winter. And there's plenty of room in here for you three. You can get 5 kids in here if you had to stuff them in here. Of course, they would not have the proper seat belts if you did that, but 3 adults can fit in this vehicle perfectly comfortable. Ah, nice, 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 nice. Room, nice, good. Family carrier, yes. When the rain comes, they run and hide their heads. They might as well be dead when the rain comes. So you can get away using Beatles music on YouTube if you just sing it like Shatner, and then nobody will recognize what you're actually singing. I've discovered this in my long tenure at YouTube, which has been like 3 weeks. It's amazing the things you learn. What you're hearing is the accident obstacle avoidance beeping from the accident avoidance sensors. Boy, it's really raining. This is good. We really needed the rain.
Rain! I think this man's crazy.
That's what I am, crazy.
Now, I'm learning right along with you how to make all these things work. There we go. Rear windshield wiper is now functioning. Okay, this Atlas Cross Sport from your friends at Volkswagen has a very, very beautiful engine, as I mentioned earlier. It's, my God, you open the hood on this thing and that's just, it almost looks futuristic, or it looks like a movie prop. It's so well done. The way that's this 3.5 liter something V6 engine, which is also very, very smooth. For a vehicle like this, and this is everything about this shrieks at you in terms of how much room you have everywhere. It's a perfect engine for propelling this down the road. It really is. I couldn't point out a better, what I consider to be a better powertrain in general for a sport utility like this, because you have everything you need. You have all-wheel drive, which is 4Motion in the Volkswagen dictionary, and you have plenty of power. And what I'm most curious about is what kind of fuel economy we're going to get out of here. There's certain engines that Volkswagen, well, all their engines are pretty impressive when it comes to fuel economy. But their V6s, kind of like Toyota V6s, have been very good in the fuel economy department. They're very efficient, and yet they deliver such wonderful performance. Nice and smooth, linear, plenty of low-end torque, all the things you want. Like if I were to say, load this down with passengers and freight, which, as I mentioned before, since this thing is all about room,
That's a lot of passengers, and that's a lot of freight. And it's great. I really like how much, the spaciousness of this thing. I've also reviewed an Atlas, a couple of them actually. And the Atlas Sport Cross Sport, sorry. That's an area that's getting very confusing actually. See if I can slow down well, I don't want to turn them off. Slow down there. There we go. From the very first time I drove an Atlas, I just loved how much room it had in it. It's just really spacious. And the Cross Sport is a little tighter as far as I think it's a little bit shorter in overall length. But it's just cavernous in here. I mean, you have all this delicious room. And I think when you need a mid-size to almost full-size SUV, that's the first thing you look at. And I always tell people when they're looking at a vehicle, period, and they're just, I need to get a new car. Boom. And then, okay, my first question is always the same. How much room do you need? Because I think that's one of the things you can't change over time. If an engine is if you get something that has an engine that's not quite up to snuff later, you can't really do anything with that either. But there's a few things you might be able to do. But the bottom line is you can live, unless you're towing a trailer up Monarch Pass or something like that in Colorado. You can live with it. You can live with an engine that's a little smaller than what you bought, or even if it's a little bigger than what you actually need, and you want something more fuel efficient, you can still live with it if you have to. But if you buy a vehicle that is too small for your needs, that's a real pain, because there's nothing you can do about that. You can't fit your baby pachyderm in the back seat if there ain't enough room back there for it. You just can't. I mean, I've tried. And you get the trunk stuck out one side and his little tail stuck out this side, and it just won't work on these smaller cars. But on this car, yeah, you could get your baby pachyderm in here. So that's the number one criterion when you're buying a car. Before you go anywhere else and start to talk about any other aspects of the vehicle, size. Size matters in this case. Very much so. And this is where, like I said, this vehicle and the Atlas, the full-on Atlas that's not the Cross Sport, really excels. I can't think of another vehicle in this class and external size that has the kind of room this thing does. Oh, wow, did it stop raining? As we traverse this very difficult, flooded. What are you making noises for? What are you saying? I have no idea why I did that. As we go through this jungle, it is a veritable jungle. Hey man, why don't you just chill? Gonna activate the Max defroster, because we got to see, man. Beep 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 beep. I love beeping that doesn't really be indicative. Oh, it's telling you it's over here. Yeah, I know there's bushes over there, man. Let's go over this big rock here. Whoa, big rock test. Average. Whoa, look at that. Whoa! It is very scary. Scary, as your old friend Count Floyd would say. Very scary. Boy, I tell you, I do like a good defroster. When you hit that max button, all hell breaks loose in the wind department. And of course, do you realize that many, many years ago, there really wasn't a great defroster system on cars if you didn't have air conditioning. Because one of the most important aspects of the defrosting thing is air conditioning. Acon. I wonder if I can turn this down. Look at that. Look at that. I can turn that down. That's much better. And it's also doing many things. Now we got the immediately, this is like living in the tropics. We got all this fog. Can you see all that fog out there? It's quite a bit of fog out there. Oh, there's a fellow Atlas. My God, they're popular. I've seen one. That's a very strange thing about wherever you may live. Certain cars look like they sell like hotcakes. And they do where you live. But for the rest of the country, it is a no. Very nice V6. I do like this engine. I can put this engine in a lot of other cars. I just drop it in there. Like that little Toyota 86, that little two-door coupe, beautiful. Looks like a tiny Ferrari. It's a fantastic car. I love that car, except for the engine. The engine's not horrible, but I tell you, I'd like to drop this motor right here in there. See what it does with that. But it is extremely jungle-like. It's very dark. It's a very, very hard test for the GoPro. You the GoPro? That's you. You may feel like you're a person sitting and watching this video, but to me, you're a GoPro sitting over my shoulder. Woo! Here we go. Yeah. I know, having too much fun driving to the grocery store. Well, that's what these things will do a lot of. A lot of these Volkswagen Atlas Cross, whatever, Red Line, R Line. My God, it's got so many titles to it, this car. But when you have a vehicle that is like Carlsbad Caverns on the inside, what is known as the big room, if you've ever had the pleasure of going to Carlsbad Caverns, it's kind of amazing. And then you walk deep down into the bottom of the cavern, and then you take an elevator back up to the surface when you're done. Or so you did 40 years ago. Who knows now? They may have put escalators in Carlsbad Caverns. Have they? I know not. Okay. I really do like the ride quality of this. It's again one of these what I consider to be beautifully tuned suspensions, and that it is that perfect compromise between stability and handling. I love people that don't use their turn signal. It is difficult. I understand it requires a lot of thought to use your turn signal. Good to see our cable man is at the ready. Because, you know, if you lose your cable and your internet, you basically don't exist anymore. And we're one of those weird couples that has, we still have a landline. Now, why is that? And I'll tell you, there was a tropical storm, hurricane type thing that hit this community a few years back, and it knocked a couple of trees down, including one right next to our driveway that took out one of these poles, these telephone poles here, which had our phone line on it, and our cable line on it, and the electric line on it, had all that stuff on it. The only thing that never stopped working was the phone line. Our telephone never went out. And interestingly, after a couple of days of not having power, Eversource, the cell towers in our area were battery powered. Because their power was out too. The cell tower power was out. So They run on a battery backup, which lasts about 12, 18 hours, I think it was at the time. And then your cell phone didn't work anymore. You didn't have a signal. You couldn't access the internet via your cell phone. However, we still had our phone, thanks to the fact that good old technology, hardwire technology, the power still comes down the telephone line to power our telephone system. Now, nowadays, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to find out that doesn't work anymore, because they replaced so much with carbon fiber that does not, as I understand it, send power down the line the way old phone lines used to. And if the power goes out, so does your landline. We're doing everything we can to make sure that we're as dependent on the most fragile type of systems. And it's going to come back and bite us on the butt. It already has quite a bit. That's the one thing people talk about with electric cars is, what if the power goes out, then I can't charge my car? Yeah, that's true. You got a problem, unless you have a huge backup generator that's big enough to power your house and charge up your car, because it takes a lot of kilowatts to charge your car up. But you must remember that unless your friendly gas station has a backup generator to power the fuel pumps, because there's electricity is used to pump fuel into your vehicle, you're going to be out of luck too.
Go, baby, go! Yeah, yeah! And we like to yeah, yeah! I just love him so. He's my ice cream friend. Every time I kiss him, I feel mighty fine. I love his very believers. And we like to
Weißen Häuten wie, gesalke Wein, ist ein viel ein